I mean, as the background, of course, this was one of the solutions that we were trying to get into that, okay, when we take away the samples, how do we give that same showroom experience? Because, of course, right now you have the samples that fit very well. You take the t shirt, you take the pant, you put them like this, kind of like try it on yourself, kind of like you do when you go trying some styles before in a store. Um, and of course, we needed to find a solution or a test run of something that would mimic this view. Of course, we have also like all of our customers and sales rep, they tend to take styles and put them down on the floor, which we managed to replicate that digitally. But it's a different thing to actually be able to do it on an avatar. And we've gotten a lot of requests of this from many different markets, like spanning from, let's say, the ones that you would expect it from, like Denmark, like Sweden, also from the ones that, as I said, you wouldn't really necessarily expect it from, like Greece.
Right.
They really requested, like, this would be huge for us to go out and sell without samples. Amazing. Again, speaking of the help that we've gotten from the sales are being very much open to this new change, right?
Yep.
And this was essentially the premise for trying to digitalize this action that everybody's doing in the showrooms with the samples.
Yes. Cool. Let's take a look and see how it. Uh, just let me know anytime you want to comment, and I can just pause.
Yeah.
In order to use the avatar, all you need to do is to simply get over in the SR and, for instance, choose this t-shirt right here, as well as choosing this pant, and now we see them being worn by the avatar. So now I can interact with the avatar. Of course, first thing I can do is to change the pose of the outfit, because of course we
Actually,
know.
this is a key factor that I didn't think it was going to be that key. The different pose. I've had tons of questions about, okay, but is it only going to be from the front? The reason for this is actually that there's a lot of styles that have, like, perhaps I remember there was a jacket that had it was for dinosaurs, I think, and like the spurs of the dinosaur here on the side. And if you had the picture that we had earlier from the front, you wouldn't be able to see it exactly from here. You wouldn't be able to see it. You would have to kind of like have the kid turn around.
Of course, first thing I can
This
do
is
is to
like, of course, like a very
Yeah.
like tiny turnaround, but the concept of it actually having different poses, I didn't think was going to be that crucial, but it actually is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially the backside, right? Like the prints on the backside can be completely different from the fronts. And obviously taking pictures, because I believe you tried on a simpler
uh-huh.
way with Photoshop to create this before, but I mean, the
Yeah,
combinations would just
yeah.
mind-boggling
That's where
many.
we hope that the artificial intelligence can help us. Just click, click, done. We haven't found
Yeah.
the solution yet, but my gosh, if we get there, wow, this can really go out very quickly, and I'm sure that the salesman will be super happy about it.
Certainly. Let's continue listening on how well you also communicate
Too kind.
the features.
change the pose of the outfit, because of course we know how the different angles are important to show to the customer before making a decision, but also it's important to show them the different color combinations. So here I can have the overview of the styles that I'm seeing. I can click on the t-shirt and go from white to yellow, as well as the pants going from dark sapphire to light gray melange. And here I have the outfit with the different color variations.
But I think what this shows already is the AI technology, because nowadays most people have
Yeah.
seen these sort of try on technologies, right, somewhere. But the fact that to try to put them into an application that is then used in a process is, I mean, we haven't really seen
Yeah.
a lot of those examples yet. I would say none for fashion, really, wholesale for sure. That it, like, how do you apply these technologies so that it makes sense
Yeah.
from A to
Yeah. So
B
of
in
course,
a
this is
process?
this would be like the ace up your sleeve of the sales rep when you're trying to convince the customers to actually buy into an outfit, a program, or whatever the case might be. Because of course, this gives them the reassurance, the confirmation that this would actually look nice for the end consumers from their stores. And of course,
Yeah.
when you have the avatars, and of course we have the different product lines, so baby mini kits, right? So different styles that need to fit in a realistic way on the different avatars to give the most realistic view to the customer, to the buyer, to convince that this will actually be impressive also when it will arrive in the stores for real, to then be proposed to their own customers. in the shops. So this, it's not something that you have to do with every single set. It's something that you can do if needed, because of course it's not that all the styles, oh yes, I'm going to buy everything. That would be a perfect world, but it is not the case. This, you would use it to convince about a set for the customer to buy into.
Exactly. I think, as you said, also you said so. You can show it how it looks like, and you said nice. I think that was one of the key things that we want to, I guess you wanted to evaluate here. Like, to what extent does it matter that the products are photorealistic onto this? Or usually just have like
Yeah.
underwear and nothing else, right? So you should be able to dress it with anything, and it should look like it's in the right studio
Yes.
being photographed. Did you know how
That's actually
important
a
that
very
actually is?
tough question to answer. Of course, by default, you would say, yeah, it has to be as realistic as possible. But also, in my experience, I've seen some pack shots where I thought, oh, ouch, the quality of this photo is not really that great. Unfortunately, I think we ought to redo it again. And the salesmen were like, oh, I didn't see any problem with that. Why should we do it again? Because at the end of the day, there's always that quote unquote fight. It's not really a fight, but between, perhaps, let's say I'm imagining a marketing team saying, okay, this picture is not really living up to the standards that we want, and the sales are like, oh, but this actually is helping me sell. And you need to find the right balance in
Yeah.
between. And yeah, it's a very hard question to answer. But of course, the bottom line is that the more realistic it is, the better. But perhaps it does not have to be as realistic as we may think.
But I think that's a very sober way of looking into it, because obviously we want to believe that the nicer the presentation is, the more
Yeah.
convincing and persuading it will be, and most likely it is. But there must be like a tipping point where it's, I mean, from there on, maybe not that much. And sometimes I see like these catalogs that being created or PowerPoints, and they look
Yeah.
like, I don't want to say the word, but it sells. It seems to do the job. So I think it's very good to be just aware of the fact that yes, we can bring in a lot of technology, but just to be aware it
Yeah.
works with the
Yeah.
PowerPoints that they
Yeah.
have right now. So maybe it's important to consider like how can we make it quicker, faster, easier with introducing new technology and then getting
Yeah, and
adopted that way,
absolutely. I
maybe,
think that
right?
one of the lessons that I've learned in this years in rolling out this transition is that, sometimes you always try to have, of course, I have high standards, as everybody name it, and in bestseller. And sometimes you need to realize that maybe it's not the right thing to put out something that's absolutely state of the art perfect. It's actually perhaps fine to have it just a step below, so that you can actually gain some feedback and figure out that maybe your state of the art was not necessarily the direction you wanted to go, and you risk into going towards something that it's fundamentally more complicated than what it actually needs to be, going back to the what looks cool, what actually sells. And that was certainly a big learning in the process. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. Because if we manage to sell styles on paper, then we need to be a little bit realistic on what we can achieve for sure.
Exactly. All right, let's just run the video a
Yeah.
little bit more. It's 1 minute left.
So that was a very simple outfit. Although we know that we have some markets that they need a bit more complexity when they're creating the outfits, so we can add this. For instance, I can choose this t-shirt, I can choose this pant, and now I can also add this cardigan, which will be layered on top of the t-shirt in the outfit. So now,
I mean, that technically
Yeah.
is a challenge to that's not an obvious thing. I mean, there are so many challenges with this virtual try-on thing. Everything from getting the prints and the
Yeah.
text and the patterns correct in no matter how you produce them, and to do it on a scale, so
Yeah.
hard.
If you go back a second,
But yeah,
then actually it's very
impressive.
interesting. Yeah, you see here. So a little bit above there was the t-shirt, then there was the pen, and there was the cardigan. That's kind of like how you layer it up. And if this technology don't exist, if we didn't have the digital showroom, what would happen in the showroom is exactly the same thing that you're seeing right now on the avatar right here. So we have the t-shirt, you have the pant, and then they would literally put the shirt of the t-shirt inside the cardigan to make it look realistic, and then take a picture of it and send it to the customer. This
Yep.
is how you would set it up in your shop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
exactly. And
Exactly.
it's
Merchant.
so technically complex to do this. And because I personally believe that if we take away the cardigan, that's a easier approach, especially for those styles that, let's say, basic, maybe just like color and photo print. Of course, when we have all over prints, like in this particular case in the shorts, the complexity starts to increase. But it would be already a good starting point, getting back to what we were talking about earlier. But then layering is something that the second we nail the first step, then the first question we're going to get from the sales rep is, okay, but how can I layer that on top of it? So it's something that definitely is
Yep.
going to be needed in this technology, in this product.
Yep. All right. And I think now we're going to see you do some sales tricks and sales magic.
On top of the t-shirt in the outfit. So now I can actually again interact by changing the different poses on the avatar. And in this particular case, I'm going to save the outfit. Of course, now that I saved the outfit, we could get the question from the customer like, yeah, I like this one, but I would like to see it, how it fits with the different colors. So again, I can go around and, for instance, change the cardigan and putting it in dark sapphire. And I can also change the shorts from dark sapphire to chambray blue, for instance. And now I have this new outfit, which I'm going to save again. Why am I saving the outfits? Well, because when I'm doing this, I can swipe up and have a look at the outfit that I'm currently looking at, but also the one that I saved earlier. This allows me to have the customer to make an informed decision about which outfit will work best in their shop. Let's say it was this one that we're looking at just now. What I can do now is to open the styles, heart them, which will add them to the basket.
Okay. And I think this is where it really sums up well what you've been talking about in terms of training and educating the markets. Like the way you present the features are not like click here to do this, click here to do that. It's more now you have two options. It's easier, and then the process of it and what it enables you to
exactly,
make it relatable,
and trying to make
I
it
guess,
as
right?
easy to digest as possible. Like not really saying drag it up or down, downwards so that you can see the different set. No. Even just do it, and I can go back here. It's a small detail, but it's incredibly effective.